Okay, well, I finished sanding the coffee table. I removed all the sawdust, and now I'm upstairs in the art studio because it's a dust-free environment, and I'm going to finish the coffee table. And for my finish, I'm using Waterlox. It's a wiping varnish. It's a really nice finish, and also it's a very easy finish to apply. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I seal the inside of the cabinet, and then I'm going to work from the legs up to the top, and the last surface that I'll apply the finish to is the top of the coffee table. I'm using an old cotton rag to apply the finish, and I want to seal the inside, and I'm working from the center of the cabinet out. That way I'm less likely to get the finish on my arm from reaching into the cabinet. Now that I've finished with the legs, I'm applying the varnish to the bottom of the coffee table, and you can see that I'm always working in the direction of the grain. Now that the table has one coat of finish on every surface, including the drawer fronts and the backs, I'm going to let the finish dry overnight. I'll come in tomorrow, give the whole piece of furniture a light sanding, and then repeat the process. I let the table dry overnight, and now I'm going to bring it out onto the deck and just give it a quick sanding before I apply another coat of finish. To sand the finish, I'm using an A-weight 320 sandpaper, and to make the sandpaper even a little bit finer, I take two pieces and just rub it together, and that just makes the sandpaper so it's not quite as coarse, and that way I'm less likely to sand through the finish. Now, whenever you're sanding the finish or applying the finish, you should wear a good respirator. And as always, it's important to work with the grain. Well, now that I've finished sanding the coffee table, the next step before I apply more finish is to remove any dust. And the way I like to do that is I take one of these heavyweight paper towels. You'll see it's like a box of rags that you see in any home store or hardware store, and lightly dampen the paper towel with paint thinner, and then just run it over all the surfaces, removing the dust. And once that's done, basically you just continue to repeat the process for however many coats of finish that you want. Now I'll probably do 4 coats on the legs and the body, and maybe 6 to 7 coats on the top of the coffee table. Now, I'm not going to video that because it's basically the same thing over and over, but I will show you what I'm doing in the next video, which is kind of cool. I'm making the handles for the coffee table, and I'm just going to bring a close-up and show you some of the steps I took that may be a little bit clear, so if you have any questions, hopefully that'll help out. Well, one thing I wanted to point out is the color, and the coffee table is made out of cherry, and so is this frame, and the only difference is that I made the frame a few years ago, and over time the color of the frame has become much more rich and darker, and the same thing will happen to the coffee table. When I mentioned that I use an old cotton rag to apply the Waterlox finish, I'm simply referring to an old cotton t-shirt. This is the Waterlox that I'm using, and they're the same thing. This just happens to be the newer design for the label. Now you can also see that I've squeezed the can, and I do that to remove any space for air in the can, because when air gets in the can, the material starts to congeal, and that would just waste all of the material. I like to use one of these paper paint strainers when I pour the material into a working bowl, and the bowl is just an old coffee container. Well, now I'm ready to start the whole process over again. I hope you tune in next week to see how I make this hand-carved drawer pull, and also to see the finished coffee table. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.